things that I do a boot camp with Enterprise St. John and some other people around the province. And pricing is always something that is a challenge. And it's a challenge. It doesn't matter if you're a multi-million-dollar company, not everybody does it well. But there's a few fundamentals that you have to kind of think about. And I'm not gonna get into specifics. I actually have no canned notes. We're gonna wing it. I'm gonna ask people for ideas or thoughts, or I'm gonna bug somebody. And we'll use your scenario as an example of your product. So Chloe, you have a product you're gonna make.
Right.
So can we talk about what the ingredients are for your product? Because you said it's gonna be very cost effective, right? And I always think, well, maybe you should raise your price, because this is about making money. And it's really amazing to do things because it makes you feel good. But at the end of the day, you know, in 20 or 30 years, you're gonna want a house, you might have a couple kids, and those guys are expensive. And you know, things change. So how do we take what you've got now and build a business model around it? So pricing's a big part. So I want everyone just to throw out what you think would go into Chloe. So let's talk about your ingredients list, because you're gonna have ingredients.
Yes.
So what are they?
So to make my mint extract that goes into it,
Yep.
It has apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
And also ground mint leaves. It also contains aloe vera gel, honey, nutmeg, and cucumber. Also water to make like the cucumber extract.
Is it distilled water, just like
Yeah.
water?
Okay. Are those the ingredients?
Yes.
Okay. So have you gone out and priced?
Yes, I do. I actually have.
You don't have to go into, we're not gonna go into exact details, okay? We're gonna throw stuff up here because this is about understanding the concept, right? And whatever these are, it's gonna change for each one of your businesses, right? Because what's not in here is labor, right? Because you're thinking, well, I'm doing it for free. Well, you can't plan a business that way, because someday you're gonna have employees putting this all together for you. And then you have packaging and labeling and all the other stuff that goes into it, right? So this is more about getting your brain thinking in the way, okay, I forgot this, or what about that? So it's just more about understanding the concept. So which one of these would be your most expensive item?
Probably my apple cider vinegar, but like to make like the actual like per unit, that one would actually be one of the cheapest ones because it goes into the extract.
So the aloe vera gel is not expensive?
It is expensive. It would be like per unit, that would be the most expensive.
That's what I found, yeah. So this is your most expensive one. Oh, so just so you know, I don't spell really well, and I never do math in my head. Because I'm always thinking 3 steps ahead, and I can never think math. You have to focus. So these other items, mint leaves would be relatively expensive because they're fresh.
Yeah, the nutmeg is the most expensive after the aloe vera gel.
Okay. And
Then mint leaves and
okay, honey. Okay. So then we have packaging. So if you've looked at this, what do you think it's going to cost you to make whatever size you're selling?
So right now I just have the basic formula down, but I'm going through different testing sessions.
Right.
So we're changing the formula a little bit here. And
Absolutely.
there. So my rough estimate cost would have to be $1.60.
$1.60 per unit.
Per unit. That's including the packaging containers that it would come in, which is 53 cents per unit.
Okay, so your cost actually is $1.10, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you build any contingency in that? So what I mean by that is, oops, I spilt it, right? So there it goes on the floor. So, or, you know, you mess up something somehow, so my suggestion for everybody in the room is always add a 20% contingency when you're planning. Okay? For no other reason except that you're gonna forget something. I do that now with all of my clients when we're working on new products or when they're sending stuff out. And the funny part is we usually use at least some of it, if not most of it. Okay, so when you have unknowns, add 20%. So that would be, the first thing I'd say is take that by, so I don't know what that would be. That's why I have a calculator.
20% of $1.10
Isn't that awful?
be 22 cents ish.
132 is the new price. Or cost.
That's perfect.
So then you add your packaging, okay? So I always keep packaging completely separate from the formulas. Just because you can change that. If you buy bulk, you get a different price, yada, yada, yada. So you've got to take your different components and look at them individually. Okay, so your raw materials, you look at your labor, you look at your packaging, then you have to add shipping. If you're selling it online, right? There's those kinds of things in there. And shipping, you know, can cost you out of the market. So we're going to look at this from the perspective, okay, these are my costs, and then we're going to look at it and say, okay, this is how we know it's going to cost us $5.55, just because I like that number, right? That's shipping, everything. But the market will only bear $3.50. You have a problem, right? If the market will bear a $13.50 price, you're okay. But this is kind of the starting point and not the end point. So you have to know what it's going to cost you to get your product done, but then you have to go out and say, okay, what can I actually sell it for? Right? Because they're two very separate things, and you have to know them both equally well. So we're going to start on this piece. So in here, this is 1 unit, and how many do you think you'll make in an hour?
I'm not really too sure. It just depends because, like, the way that I make the product, I make it as per quality, so it wouldn't really take that much longer. The only part that takes really long would have to be the actual packaging.
Absolutely.
And to make it is probably half an hour to start to finish.
Okay. Right, 'cause it's a recipe. Right? I don't know if anybody ever cooks, but you know, it's pretty easy to throw stuff in a bowl and whip it up. But then you have to grease the oven pan and do all that other stuff. So that's
And clean up.
and yeah, the cleanup.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
including cleanup and everything, so I guess I don't know.
Yeah, so you're looking at, so if you said, okay, I'm going to make 50 units, how long would it take you?
I feel like it would take me 1 hour because when I went through all my testing sessions, it took me about an hour to make what more than 50 minutes.
Okay, so that's to make it, is that packaging and clean up and everything, is that turnkey? Or is that just to make it?
No, that's just to finish making it and then to like, I have like these little sample containers, so I only put like some of the actual product into the sample container, so if you like, I don't have an exact answer for you.
Okay, that's okay, we're throwing a dart. As long as you hit the dartboard, business planning is really throwing a dart. You're never gonna hit well, some people might hit the bullseye, but most people don't. And when you're in the planning process, the goal is to hit the dartboard, especially the first time. And then as things move on, you're gonna throw it again, you're gonna get a little closer, and you're gonna get a little closer. You're never gonna get bullseye, especially from the start. And that's not the intent. The intent is to understand different parts, and I can guarantee you, where you start and where you finish is gonna be light years difference. Right? Because you're gonna learn. And no one can teach you what it's like to run a business. You do it. And I still remember one of my clients, she has a very, very successful multi-million-dollar business. And she came out of the master's program. She did an MBA. And she thought, you know what, I've got it going on. And 5 years later, she's like, holy crap, I didn't know anything. So all I'm gonna tell you is you're just gonna continue to learn, and you're gonna get better at understanding this, and you're gonna change, you're gonna pivot a lot. You'll hear that a lot when people talk about startups, about pivoting. So this is not about hitting the bullseye, throw a dart, you know, if you hit the wall, we'd rather you on the bull than the dart board, but, so if we say 2.5 hours,
2 hours would be appropriate.
okay, so you get 2 hours. So if you're paying someone, you know, say minimum wage, but then with minimum wage you have EI and CPP and vacation pay and work safe and yada, yada, yada. You're looking at $15. So if you're hiring someone at minimum wage, you're actually paying out about $15 an hour. And that's me throwing a dart, that's not an exact number. And that's if you're not providing them with tools and a car and all kinds of other things. So, in service businesses, how you doing? So, we're gonna take this out, we're gonna say, okay, it's $1.32 times 50. And then we're gonna have 15 times 2 for the labor. And then the packaging, you had it around 50 cents?
It's 53 cents.
53 cents. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add 20% to that. So whatever is 53 cents times 1.2.
10.6.
64. That'll give you your total cost for 50 units.
Everybody getting all that? Like, if there's anything you're sketchy on, feel free to just ask.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't. Do you understand where I'm coming up with these numbers?
Contingency plan is not a term we've used before, but that just means like a rainy day fund, unexpected.
Yeah, you know, because this is a plan, and you don't have any experience in it. It's not like you've done this before, and even if you have done it before, like I've done it before, and I still throw 20%, right? Because there's always something that comes up, whether it's a website or packaging, or you need to get some sort of approval by some sort of government agency, and you have to have testing done. I mean, there's always
Unexpected
something.
stuff, right?
Unexpected stuff.
Especially with ingredients like that, I mean, a supplier could just
Like
change
if it
their
goes
price.
bad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you have anything that uses vanilla,
Oh, yeah.
vanilla, holy cow, the
That's
price
so
is-
expensive.
I know, but it never used to be. Sorry, go ahead, Seth.
Your 1.2, that's whole price plus your 20%.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this situation, I'm saying roughly, you're to make 50 units, it's $98. You divide that by 50. So that brings me to $1.96. Do you guys understand where this comes from?
Yeah. Yeah.
64-cent markup.
No, not
From-
yet. We haven't
from
even
cost.
No, this is cost. This is cost. Cost per unit.
Okay.
That was their initial cost without the 20%.
Right. So I'm saying this is what we're forecasting to come in. So if you come in at 196 or less, then you've done a decent job on your plan. Go ahead, Jesse.
Did you not add in the laboring, or did you?
Yeah, the labor's here, $15 times 2 hours.
Yeah, but how'd you get 98? You're adding 60, 30, and 32.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah,
Because I got 128.
You did.
yeah.
I missed one. See, you gotta keep me on my toes. I don't do that. Yeah, I know. So it's $2, and that would be a big mistake, right?
Yeah.
that mistake that you picked up, if we wouldn't have picked it up, would have been a big mistake,
Exactly.
right? That could be the difference between making it not.
I just didn't know if you were like gonna save the labor for later. or
No,
not. So it's
No,
just-
I made a mistake. It happens. You always go back and check your numbers, right? That's why I have associates at the office. But you do this, right? And you go back over and over and over. So in this situation, I'm gonna give you an example. So General Motors was bailed out by the US government, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago now. And, you know, they were doing their planning, and their planning was that they were gonna sell big honking SUVs, because that's where they make most money. And they made a mistake in their planning process. And they forecasted that gas prices would raise with inflation, so about 2%. So when fuel prices went through the roof 8 or 9 years ago, of course, all their sales dropped like a rock. And everybody was trying to buy little, you know, economy cars that were better. And if the US government wouldn't have bailed them out, one of the biggest companies in North America would have been gone. So I use them as an example because I'm pretty sure if I would have been sitting in that planning meeting, they would throw me out the door for telling them that, you know, what they were using as part of their planning was flawed, right? So in your planning, you do it, you go back, you do it again, you ask other people, it's a never-ending cycle. Pardon me, my nose is...
Keep Jesse around. It's the moral of that story too.
Yes. Well, no, but I mean, you always have to check your numbers. So this is $2.56 a unit. So in your thought process, have you identified what you thought you would sell it for?
Well, per unit is $1, so 30 liters, and I want it to be cheaper than most active treatments because I find that a lot of, and like through survey work, I found that a lot of those students are having a hard time being able to afford, and they already spend too much of their own money or their parents' money into acne treatments. So seeing that my cost per unit is only $2.56, I just want to try making it less, around $10 more a month.
Okay, $10 makes me happy. That makes me very happy. And I'll explain why. Okay? So whatever you guys are making or selling, it has to be at least double the cost. That's a minimum. Okay? So, because I don't think anybody in the room is going to be doing a gazillion units like Costco and can sell it and, you know, make money at 4 or 5%. So this would give you $2.50, 6 cents a unit, but at $10,
It's $7.44.
thank you. See, you guys are learning. Because I don't do the math. That's like 4 times that, or pretty close. 744.
That's like 3 times it.
378% to be exact.
301?
That's 290, almost 3 times, 2.9 times your cost. So you're going to hear people talk about markup and margin, right? I'm an accountant. We use margin for a couple of reasons. I'm not going to get into the details of. It helps you when you're managing your business down the road. That's beyond what we're trying to do today. But if you can take your cost and you can get 3 times it, and you can sell it, if the market will bear that price, you have a great margin in there. Okay? Because what that gives you money to pay for office space, for staff, for advertising, for web presence, for all those other things that you need to be able to sell this. Okay? So we're saying, okay, this is what you're expecting your sell price to be. What are your competitors selling it for? So who's out in the market, right? Because nobody knows you yet. But if you have, you're going to do your comparison. So this is part of the stuff you guys are going to do. You're going to figure out, okay, this is the world, this is St. John, where are you going to sell to? So you're probably going to start a little small, but the goal is that you get way out here, if you can. But if you're only going to sell in here, you're not gonna have, 5 million units going out the door. So what are the other people selling their product for? Because you thought that was a reasonable price. What's everybody else selling it for?
One example that comes to my mind is Burt's Bees.
Right?
So they sell their acne treatment. It's silic acid Boulevard. It is being sold for $15, $16. It is 30 milliliters of water.
Okay, so that's, who's your other competitors?
Getting away from natural products into like more pharmaceutical brands would have to be like some proactive, maybe
Okay,
benzoyl peroxide.
okay. And how much are they selling it for?
I do not currently.
Okay. Can you throw a dart?
Very expensive.
30?
Well,
I
30
think
to 40.
it's, yeah.
It's up there.
And it's not natural?
it's in mid-20s.
Mid-20s.
I'd say like mid-20s. I would say like
Okay.
mid-20s because I use a lot of acne products, and like most of the products that I buy that are like half decent are like in between
They have
$20
a-
and $27.
They have a vending machine in the mall,
Yeah.
and the last time I looked through it, I remember like 12, but it was like 36.98.
Okay, we'll just say 25 because it's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Okay? So, my question to you, Chloe, is that if the market is here, why are you giving up $5 each unit?
Because that's $5 less that the customer will have to spend, and we can put that into something else that
Okay, so you buy the product. Who was the one that, James, was it you that said you buy a lot of acne products? Do you care if it's $15 or $10?
Okay, that works.
I'd say if there's a product at 15 or 16, like $15.99, let's say, in the store, and I see a product that's similar to it, or I think it's a little bit better, and it's like $14, and it's like the same product or the same
No
thing,
question.
I'll buy it, right?
Absolutely, but that's $2.
It adds
So-
up.
Oh, yeah, no, that's half. That's half, well, not, I mean, half of this. So I understand, that you want to help people, but my suggestion would be, if you want to do some social enterprise stuff, charge the market price and then donate to those that can't afford it, right? Or donate to a charity or do something else. And the reason is that the market price is the market price. And if you lower it, you're just giving money away. And that is not what you're in business to do. You're in business to make money. Because even with this margin, and it looks good, there's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of advertising, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's going to happen that you've got to pay for. And there's no, the market price is the market price is the market price. It's going to dictate where you should be. And my suggestion is never to go too far below market. So if you're comparable, then you should be there. Now, if you're going to go out there and try to do a launch and offer a special for a short period of time or whatever, that's one thing, but you don't go out with that being your price. Okay, sorry, Seb, you had a question?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, because you said markup, but I know what that is. I don't know what margins are, so if there's a little definition.
Yeah, so I use gross margin a lot because say you're going to be a clothing,
Yeah.
I don't know about a manufacturer, because you might get it manufactured in China or
Yeah, right.
Bangladesh or
manufactured
something,
somewhere else.
right. So if you weren't, say you were going to be a clothing manufacturer,
Mhm.
and you said to me, Donna, I need to spend $500,000 on equipment or in advertising. I'm going to spend $50,000 in advertising. How much do I have to sell today to make the $50,000 to pay for the
Okay.
advertising?
Okay, I understand.
So how do you get that number? And that's where a gross margin comes in, because margin is your profit after all your costs.
Yep.
Cost of the product. So if you have a $50,000 spend So I don't care if it's advertising or a piece of equipment, or, I mean, equipment's not a good example because you have a useful life of more than 1 year.
Yeah.
But say you're gonna go do, because you wanna penetrate the market, and you say, okay, I'm gonna spend $50,000. How much do I need to bring in the door in new sales to pay for that?
On top of it.
On top of everything else. So you would take the $50,000 and you would divide it by your gross margin. So if your gross margin, so you have this $50,000 advertising spend, because I want to go back to Chloe's company. And you say, okay, I'm going to spend 50. How much net new sales do I have to pay for that? So if your gross margin is 40%, it's one number. If it's 75%, and I'm going to show you why. And if it's 20%, so if you take the 50 and you divide it by the 40, that's how much you need as a dart throw for net new sales. So that's 125. Is that right? Yeah.
Well, don't we have to think about like after paying ourselves?
This is just on net new sales. We're not getting into profits. Okay, so we're saying everything else is going to stay the same.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything, but we want to go out and do this advertising spend because we think it's going to bring us new customers.
Yeah.
So how much do we need to bring in the door just to pay for it?
Oh,
Okay, just to pay for this. So that's why gross margin is an important number to understand. And there's a formula to it, so I'm going to give it to you.
Like, did you talk about that, Zach? Because we were debating that exact thing the other day. It wasn't big numbers like that, but he was trying to figure out how much he should put in his budget for advertising his show, and we asked Heather Acker and Michelle, and they were like, well, mainstream media is very expensive.
Oh, do online.
Right.
Yeah, like Facebook is cheap, effective, and you can pay whatever you want, essentially.
Well, and who's your demographic?
Primarily like,
Under 40.
yeah.
Right. You're going to have other people, but
Yeah.
the biggest bulk of your demographic is going to be under 40 or under 50. So where are they at? They're not buying the newspaper,
Yeah.
right? Very few are listening
that's
to the
exactly what I
radio,
said was that the
right? Their
newspapers-
Spotify, their satellite radio, their
Yeah.
whatever. So, yeah. But, so in this situation, so gross margin,
Do you guys understand why you don't have to make 50,000 to cover the 50,000 you spent?
No.
No.
That's how much you have to sell. How many dollars of sales?
this is sales.
You don't set. You can't just go out and sell $50,000 worth of product
Yeah.
because you don't have $50,000, right?
This is what you're going to spend on advertising spend. So, you know, your business is chugging along, you're doing just fine, and you decide, okay, you want to grow. Well, and someone's giving you this great pitch, and they get this great thing, and they're going to do all this. And then you have to figure out, what do you need to sell to be able to pay for that? So I'll give you an example. I had a client that wanted to go, those cars. The two shareholders wanted to get new cars. They're going to spend $1,500 a month on cars. I know. My thoughts too. Anyways, so I said to them, I said, you know how much you have to sell every month to pay for that? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, how much new revenue do you have to pay so that nothing else changes in your business? And I didn't know. So when I did it, so let's use that. So they're going to pay $1,500 a month for a car. Their gross margin was 30%.
Did they already have their own personal vehicles?
They company cars, but some people, you know. So they had to sell $5,000 increase in sales to pay for that $1,500 vehicle. I can't give that.
5,000
net new sales
a month.
a month to pay for $1,500 car.
So it's funny because I think a lot of people think that. They think that the cost is $1,500, but it's not. Another thing very similar to that is people don't, like we were talking yesterday about if you go to buy something and you take a loan and you think the item costs $1,500, it costs much more than that because of all the interest over years.
That's $60,000 extra a year.
Yeah.
In revenue.
Yeah, and sales.
In sales.
How many get that now, and if you don't, it's okay, because then I'm
This is like a whole night of my Kickstart program.
Yeah, way to go, Seth. Take us all the, yeah.
No, so I mean, I'm just giving you like a very superficial overview, but if you can remember that, oh, if I'm gonna spend that much money, how much money do I need to have coming in the door to pay for it? Then that is one big thing you can always remember, and then I've achieved my goal for today.
How did you get the $5,000? What, like?
Yeah. You took 1,500
Yeah.
and I divided it by the gross margin percentage.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you the formula for gross margin percentage.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Okay? So the big thing, so if that was 15% instead of 30,
Costs a lot more.
it would be $10,000.
Yeah.
If it was 75% instead of 30, it would be a lot lower.
And
Right?
Chloe, what was
What?
Chloe's gross margin percentage?
It was high. She's 744. So yours was 744 was the gross margin dollar. And so this is a good place to get into the formula. So gross margin is, I always have to think of this, sell price minus cost. So all those things that Chloe had divided by sell price. So you need to know all the components that go into your costs. But that's why I said, so if your market price is $15, I'm going to use Chloe again, and your costs were, I thought it was $256, is something like that per unit?
Yeah.
Okay. Divide that by 15.
Yeah, that's good.
83% gross margin. You would be my client.
Yeah. And you could take Donna out for lunch. And I was just thinking another good reason to not give away money, Chloe, is if you did what Ms. Mazzerolle suggested, so you have your price maybe slightly below, but not significantly below, and donate to charity, or give money to those who can't afford it, you've added value to your business model because now you can tell your potential customers that you do that. Whereas your other claim was just we're cheap, which is nice, but not as meaningful as a.
Well, I say this to other clients: is my job is not to subsidize someone who's wealthy or someone who can afford to buy it. But I have a lot of time for volunteer things, and I have a lot of time for charities, and I have a lot of time for other things, right? So you pick and choose, but if you just send it out to en masse, then it's not always hitting the people that you might want to target. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's not a guarantee that your prices are going to come in here, right? Because in here, what we don't have is any advertising. And your marketing on this is going to be huge, right? Your shipping might be huge. It depends on how you distribute your product. Zach or James, you had a question?
Yeah. What's a like a good GM percentage?
I like that.
Like
You need 50% on average to survive.
okay, so
If you're a small business.
76 is good.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. You need between 40 and 50 to survive. So if you look at most retail stores out there, they're selling clothing or shoes or those types of things. They average 50 to 75%, depending on the product. Jewelry stores, that's a whole other world. But then you go to Costco or Walmart, and they're very different.
I heard something with Costco. They claim that they make nothing off what they sell and only their memberships. And they make like almost, it's like 2.1 billion or something.
You know what? That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I have my
So-
boyfriend works.
Yeah, Costco, what you have to understand is every product that's sitting on the shelf at Costco, they don't own. There's suppliers on it. So when it's scanned across the machine is when it goes back to head off and it says, oh, we gotta pay supplier Heinz Ketchup,
Yeah.
right? And they do that across all the Costco's and then they send one check, whether it's weekly or whatever.
Yeah, and that's why it's so they can sell everything in such a big quantity for so cheap, except everybody buys way too much stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Well, but they're one of the better employers. They offer amazing benefits. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that they do really well, and they've got a great business model. Walmart's on the other end, right?
Yeah.
Walmart is not the same type of employer, but we're getting off topic, so I want to kind of stay on topic because we can talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but that doesn't help you guys build what you're trying to do. So does this help you guys understand? And I just picked on you, Chloe, because you had a bunch of ingredients. I could see it in my head. And no, I didn't see that with everybody. So we talked about something that is ingredients based. What if we talk about something that's service?
Like me, Peter.
Yeah, we could do that. It's kind
A little complicated.
of, no.
How about Saeed? That's Saeed, by the way.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not Ms. Mazzerolle.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a teacher. They don't have to call me that.
Saeed, before you got here, we went around and everybody just did their kind of elevator pitch and introduced themselves. Maybe could you do that as well?
Sure. So I'm developing an app called Simple Service, and it's an app where you can go on it. It's free to use. You look up a service you need, for example, like snow removal. You search that, you find multiple services that are reliable and cheap.
There's a market for that. So you're gonna make money by having people pay to be on your site?
They can choose either to be listed on the free list or on the sponsored list, and it's kind of a subscription, so if they want to stay on the sponsored list, they have to keep paying.
Okay, so they pay a subscription fee. That's the service provider. And then the free listing, do they pay you as well?
No.
No. Okay,
But it's
so,
harder to find.
pardon me?
It's harder to find them.
It's harder to find people that want to do the free stuff or the people that want to pay?
It'd be harder to find them on the app.
Oh, yeah, of course, just like Kijiji, the ones that are paid are on the top.
And you can also have like advertisements on the side of the site.
Oh, yeah.
That you
Yeah.
could charge
Yeah,
people.
so that is not so much a service is in what I was thinking of. I mean, we can get into, we have till 3:30, right?
We do. A few have to go at 3:15, but the rest can stay
Okay.
till then.
So,
I have an example.
sure.
I have like a custom fly option in my business, and it's kind of a service, and there's minimal materials, but I charge more because it's something that I don't do a lot. It's harder to find, right?
Okay, so this is in making your flies, right?
Yeah.
Because right now you're the hand tying it.
Yeah.
And how do you allocate your time?
I pay myself like $25 an hour.
Okay.
Not
And-
currently, but like in
No,
the
that's
future.
what you're saying, that's what your market price is gonna be. And
Yeah.
if you had to hire someone to tie flies for you and you had to pay them a salary to keep them, what would you have to pay them?
It would be per product they made, so I would probably pay them 20% of what I sell them for, so I'd give them $2 a fly.
How long does it
depending
take to
on the
make a fly?
You could make 20 in an hour, you could make, like, it all depends on the performance of the person making them. But with that, I'd be inspecting them, making sure the quality of them was good.
Right, yeah, because you don't want someone just banging them out.
Yeah, but
And
currently
it's
I'm
crap.
selling them, yeah.
Right. So what you have to think about when you're doing your planning is not what you would take out of it. It's what you'd have to pay someone else to do it. Because one problem a lot of people have do at startups, I did it, is I undercut what I was worth. And, you know, if I have to pay someone, if I had to hire someone to do my work, then I need to, at minimum in my planning, have that coming out. Not that you might have the money to make at the start, but it's the reality that, you know, if this is today, oh, that's a crappy color.
Like if you started booming and selling a bunch of products, you need to hire an extra person to help me. Like for my example, if I sold, I don't know, 100 flies a day and I just couldn't keep up with it, right?
Right.
And I needed to hire an extra person and I got him to make a blank amount of flies a day. What would I pay him per
Right.
unit or per hour or whatever?
Whatever you want to do. The thing is you have someone that's really good, and you want to keep them for a gazillion years,
You gotta pay.
you got to pay them, and you have to treat them well.
Yeah,
Right.
like I have a really good example of this. There's a really famous fly tyer, I can't remember, Duncan something. And he used to pay people to make some of his flies. He was a big name all over the world. They're all over Canada, I guess. But in the later years of his company, before he passed away, he made flies till he was like 95. He didn't inspect any of his products, and his name just went to crap.
Right, because he was probably paying the piecemeal,
Yeah.
and
It
not,
fell apart.
right. So it's not just getting stuff out the door, you have to maintain your quality.
Yeah.
So today, you know, if you're paying yourself 25, but you want to get a top shelf fly tire, whatever, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of people say
and-
tie flyer. That was perfect.
Okay, and you know, someone that's top shelf that's gonna stay with you for 40 years
Yeah.
costs, say $30 an hour. Okay, just say, that's $30 an hour. Well, this is a great example. So people think, okay, so then you have to add EI, CPP, vacation, benefits, what else is on there? EI, CPP, vacation benefits. Then you have to put downtime.
Sick time maybe? Or is that with downtime?
That's with benefits. So, I'll give you an example. So I was doing some work, I had a client, this is a bunch of years ago, came in and was a heat and ventilation guy, was crazy busy, running his tail off. His guys were full out, so you imagine heat ventilation, so they're doing like McDonald's and hospitals and all these things. They have trucks and they have equipment and they have handhelds so they can do the work orders. And so not an inexpensive business to run. And these guys, the market salary for them was $25 an hour. And he went through and he did all of his numbers and he came back and he said, my break even or my cost for them is $35 an hour.
At $25.
At 20, say 20. This is 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
So he added all this stuff in, but he couldn't understand why he wasn't making any money. Because his guys were working their tails off. He was working his tail off and not taking any money out. You know what he forgot? So he was selling at 35. His cost per hour, the way he calculated it, was about $32.50. So his margin was too skinny. But that's a whole other conversation. What he forgot is that his guys work 40 hours a week, but they bill on average 32.
Huh.
Okay? So this cost was as if they were billing 40 hours a week.
Is that like lunch breaks and coffee breaks and things? Or?
Going from one location to another, loading up the vehicle, getting their paperwork done, getting their timesheets done. reading up on the new whatever, there's things that happen that you can't bill a customer for.
So he pays them for 40, but they can only charge the customer for 32.
So imagine 8 times 32, that's what he was losing per employee per week. Okay?
It's a lot of money.
Phew.
It's a crap ton.
I know. So,
It's like
you know, you have to, so if you're gonna pay this guy $30, it costs you 35, that's if he's out there, he's not gonna, we're not machines, right? So I always use, you know, we've got some pretty big industries here, so if the mills only run at 80% capacity for the year, you're not gonna have a human working at more than 80% capacity for a year. Now, they can do it for a short period of time. In my industry, they see it a lot because there's a lot of sweatshops out there. But people burn out and you're not gonna keep them. So, if you're doing anything that there's a big labor component and you're pricing things, make sure that you take into account downtime. So in my world, my goal is for my staff to bill on average 30 hours a week, 47 weeks a year. Because we're out of the office for training, we're out for a whole bunch of different things. So you can't, oh, and this was 52 weeks a year.
Oh, I put 48 the last time I did that.
Okay, but the thing is that there's statutory holidays, so that's between 8 and 10 or 11. You have vacations, you have all those other things that nobody's generating revenue, but you're paying out for it.
Yeah, I put 48 in.
So, we talked about Chloe's product, and, you know, here we are here. So, you guys talked about doing clothing, and you talked about selling in St. John, or providing for stuff in St. John.
Yeah.
Josh,
Yes.
what's your business?
It's Hamilton Aquatics and Maintenance, where we install tanks for people so they don't mess it up themselves. We order in tanks that are certain artists we can get certain deals off somewhere else. We help people save money so they don't waste hundreds of dollars. And we also do mainly maintenance on it.
So you're going to be product, you're going to be labor,
Okay.
and you're going to do 2 things, right?
Yeah.
So where are you selling to?
I'm kind of, well, we had kind of this talk a while back, and it's more or less like B&B. It's like different kind of businesses, like dentist office, certain things like that, where I also have an online platform on Facebook where there's a whole club, where there's people from St. John, Fredericton area, Coast Memphis, Grand Bay, that they're really passionate about it, that they would pay for that service, because a lot of people will have a large tank, but they'll go away on a business trip, come back and it's dead and it's lost $30. When you guys would come in, do the maintenance for you, and they constantly pay you for it.
Okay.
One more time.
So when you look at your market, you're looking for Southern New Brunswick.
Yes.
So one of the things you guys have to think about too, and that's going to impact your sell price, is who you sell to. So this is what we talked about. This is the world. I'm going to do it in the middle. Here's your sliver, that's Southern New Brunswick. Okay? You guys need to understand how many people there are in here that are interested in your product. Okay? So, a bunch of years ago I met this lovely couple from the Ukraine. They were new Canadians. They were bakers in the Ukraine. So I can't remember what city they lived in there. But they ran a bakery, a very successful bakery. And they had 10 or 12 staff, like they ran a big shop. But they lived in a city of 25 million. And they lived in a very densely populated area. So lots of high rises, condos, apartments, all that kind of stuff. And they were coming here and they wanted to open a bakery in Uptown St. John. and thought that they could generate the same type of revenue that they could in that city. And it was very challenging to explain to them that they don't have the foot traffic to generate, you know, $2 million or $3 million bakery. So you guys need to understand who you're selling to. So if you're selling to B2B, and you've got to know not only who's in St. John, Fredericton, Moncton, customer-wise, you need to know who your competitors are. You need to know the price they're selling it for, right? Because you going to Fredericton and Moncton adds more costs because you have to pay someone to get there, yada, yada, yada. Not that you can't be competitive, but you have to understand all of that because it might, you know, it might be worth your while and it might not be worth your while. It's going to depend on how big that piece is that you're serving. Do you understand what I mean by that? So we talked, Zach and I talked earlier, so he's doing his play, and you know the goal is to have 350 bums and seats.
Per night.
Pardon me?
Per night.
Yes, 3 nights, each night, so 3 nights. So roughly 1,000 or 1,100 people. I said, plan on 750, and then I'm throwing a dart, and go from there. But, you know, 750 people in a population like St. John shouldn't be, I don't know, I mean, if you have a snowstorm or a blizzard,
Yeah.
and, you know, you don't have a gazillion people in the cast, so all their family and friends don't come, that doesn't, do you know what I mean? You're absolutely gonna have to advertise to get people there. But, you know, sponsorships will go a long way.
Yeah, as I said, the ticket sales are
Right.
planning to be primarily, like, solely profit.
Right. So Zachary, for here, you know, you're gonna sell your product. So that's your tanks and your filters and your carbons and all that. Your labor, you're gonna have travel in there too. So there's gonna be, it's not so much equipment, but you're gonna either pay mileage or you're gonna have a vehicle to cart people around.
The way it works is like I'm also doing a tank here for Connection Works right now.
Right.
Where the way it works is we get an invoice which I already have one done, which already has the prices for the profit in there, how much everything's going to cost, and the budget-wise for fish, tank decor, maintenance-wise for the 6 months that I'll be offering to Jeff. It's already pulled in there where the only thing I'm spending on myself for anything is just the driving around, where they give me a check for how much it is, which I think it's like $21.38, like $100. And I go out, buy everything for them. The labor costs are already marked into it. Things like $91 for each, like the top 3. I forget which ones they'd be. I have to look at the invoice for it. And I come back and it's a 14-hour install for it, and like that's $20 an hour for me and my father that are doing the install because he has the vehicle for me. He's even got his truck that I can fit everything in there, to be on my way.
But all I'm saying is that if down the road, it's not just you. You have 4 people working with you, because you need to have someone help you carry the stuff in. You can't have one person on site.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, when you take cost of a vehicle, paying someone $15 an hour, because you know if it's $12 an hour, you have to mark in your EI, CPP, vacation pay, that stuff in there. You know, all of a sudden, you know, the $21 an hour you're making on labor isn't enough to cover your costs.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm saying, is that you really need to understand all the pieces and not what you're going to do today, because that'll probably get you through university, right? If you want to run a business and get it through university, but if you want to scale this and you want to have franchises all over the world doing this, then you need to have a model that somehow generates enough income to pay all the expenses, plus leave stuff on the bottom. right? So at $22 an hour, there's not enough there to do that today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, if you're in Toronto, right? Because you're in Southern New Brunswick.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people move away. There's not enough people. It's not dense enough. Like for the thing I'd be doing, Toronto would be ideal. It's a lot more people than what we
A
ideal.
lot more businesses too.
Yeah.
Wealthier income.
And like you're saying, like down the road, you kind of go different places. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the thing is that you can trial and error at home.
You can charge cheaper here too because it's cheaper to live.
True.
Well, people still want to earn money, though.
Yeah.
Right? Your cost of labor is less expensive here as well. But you know, you go to Toronto and there's way more restaurants, there's way more everything because there's just so many more people, right? So the demographics is probably not significantly different. They probably have 10% that are, or 5% that are uber wealthy, and you have the other 10, you know, and whatever. The masses are still, but there's just because the volume of people that are there. So you get 5 or 6 or 8 million people. You know, go to a place like New York City. Population of Canada is right there. So, you know, if you're going to go anywhere, go to New York or Boston, and forget about Toronto, and you get the US Exchange on your
Well,
side.
if you do go to a bigger city as well, you're saving on travel time as well. Because more
Well,
building-
no.
Well,
Have you driven across Toronto?
yes.
It's
It takes
not,
hours
it's
to get
hours.
But no, it's
from
more
here to the
more
west side
buildings
of St.
up.
John.
So you can possibly hit more buildings upwards. So you're not going from building to building.
It's kind of a trade-off because I mean,
Yeah.
I lived in New York and it literally took me sometimes 2 hours to drive from here to like
Oh, it's-
Simon's
it's
High
fun to
School
drive to New York
routinely.
anymore.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah,
That's why subways are wonderful.
Yeah.
They're being shown.
So all I'm saying is that when you're looking at your product and your pricing and all of that, you have to take in the demographics or the density of your customer base. Because if you're in Toronto or New York, you're going to be able to charge $50 an hour, most likely, right? Because whoever's running that business is not going to be the fish person, just like they're not going to be the plant person. Right? I mean, I know of businesses that pay $30 or $40 a month if someone walk in with pretty blue water and water their plants, pick the dead leaves off and leave. It's 5 or 10 minutes. But it's something someone's got to do. In my office, it's me, because I'm the green thumb. And I tell everybody we have I put timers on when I go on vacation so that it just beeps up in front of them and says water plants. And they know the exact amount to give them, so they'll just survive until I get back. But people do that, and there's a market for it. And fish tanks are becoming very popular in businesses. I'm not
Ever
exactly
seen the
sure.
TV show Tanked?
So what?
Ever seen the TV show called Tanked?
And I'm not a TV person, so no.
It's where they're based in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And they build the tanks for these really big corporations and stuff like they've done for the casinos on the strip there.
Oh yeah.
And they go all across the U.S. and they're the best in the world at doing it.
Mhm.
Where that's that I got the idea from. But I thought of building tanks. It costs more to build a tank than to order one in from somebody. Where like I found out like a month ago I could order in tanks that are 260 gallons, cheaper than to build them.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm like doing that. Like I'm also like, yes, I'm going to B&B, but I also want to look out for the local little guy that likes it and will pay me to do it. I think that's kind of the thing where like if I get like another company, like different, like a dentist office or something like that.
Well, the thing is that if you build up enough clientele,
Yeah.
Fredericton is across town in Toronto, right? Moncton is across town in Toronto. Like everybody thinks, oh, Moncton. It's an hour and 15 minutes, really, when I'm driving. It might be a little longer for other people. But I can get to Fredericton in 50 minutes. I'm on the west side. You know, if the weather's bad, it's going to take me an hour and 10, an hour and 15. You were going across to New York City
Yeah.
in 2 hours.
I was literally going to Simon's and it would take me 2 hours every
Right.
time.
Right.
Sorry.
So you can go there, and you know, you can have do a really long day in Fredericton, and you could probably serve 10 customers, right? So you get on the road at 5:30, you come home at 8, you've done 2 days worth of work in a day, and you know, it's worth your travel time. Go ahead.
I'm under the impression that going to Toronto or New York might be a bad idea because there isn't anybody else doing this in St. John. And whereas there might be 5 companies doing it in Toronto and already have a lot of good clients locked up and they've got their pricing model super sharp, so it's hard to break into markets like that. Whereas here they have people like yourself and Michelle Lodge and others who are willing to help someone get started here.
Right.
You might.
The thing is that you really have to understand. So we talked about customers. So who was your customer? You know, so for you, there's going to be a couple of, but you know, it's business to business. So what kind of business to business? Doctor's office, dentist's office, professional's offices?
It's those places that have a lot of kind of influence. I guess other people walking past them seeing it, where
It's a waiting area.
yeah, it's the waiting area where they see it and they go, hey, where'd you get that from? They ask, and then it passes by word of mouth half the time.
So when you say B2B waiting area, you need every doctor's office, every dentist office, every professional. So engineers, lawyers, accountants, architects. Sorry, there's somebody on the roof. Very distracting.
Yes.
You know, all of those types of things. Banks. Banks would be a great place, right? Because they have any place where there's a waiting area. Malls might want to have it, but then you have security because you don't want people banging on the glass
Yeah.
either. I mean, there's different things that you could do, but maybe it could be high-end boutiques.
Like that's kind of the goal. Is if I can get it in those locations, it's people are gonna see it and they're gonna ask, and then I can get like yes, it might be somebody that says, oh, I only want you to do maintenance on my tank. It's still more inflow. Okay.
Right, and you have a little tag on the bottom
Yeah.
with the name of your company, like this C. I don't know.
Well, like, think of the TV screen, the little logo there.
Yeah, it's always there. And people just Google it. Because that's all they need is a name, they Google search it. It's not like years ago, geez. So, but you need to know who your customer is, how many there are, and where your competitors are and what they're selling for. And never give them an extra $5 just because. I've had this conversation with all kinds of entrepreneurs and I tell them, because a lot of people are very altruistic, which is wonderful, but pick and choose who you give money to. Because I personally I don't want to give it to someone who's wealthy, I want to give it to someone who doesn't have.
It's like having a student senior price, like that's, for tickets, that's like reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, you know, students usually have more money than adults. More disposable income.
Student and senior more normally have more money because they.
I don't know, but yeah, seniors are on fixed incomes, they're never gonna earn more. I mean, but that's kind of the norm. Yeah, go ahead, Liam.
Oh, nothing.
Oh, I thought you were asking for.
I was just gonna ask Ben Beats.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead, or do you want us to keep talking? You want that to be private?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So, does this help you guys?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
I'm looking for eyes glazing over. Because does anybody want to throw their idea up here and us walk through it?
It's not really a service, but there's a lot of competitors in the northeast of northern and northeast of New Brunswick for flies.
Yeah, up towards Plaster Rock.
Yeah, but there's not that many competitors in southern New Brunswick.
Is that because the fishermen are there?
That's because there's up there they have a little bit better of like wildlife maintaining. I don't know what to call it, but they preserve the wildlife up there a little bit better.
There's fishing lodges, like
Yeah.
Miramichi, up toward Perth Andover, Plaster Rock.
There's stuff here, and people go fishing here, but they don't spend, like, there's people that come from, like, China, Japan, to go fishing in member sheet.
Right,
Nobody does that at Go Fishing in St. John.
no.
No, so that's why there's more market up there.
And people fly to Newfoundland
Yeah. it's
to go
crazy.
fishing,
It's crazy.
right? They
There's
can
an
fly.
88-year-old that has the biggest trout. Yeah, there's Walker.
So, what do you want to run through here?
Like I don't know where to sell my product.
Okay, so you are a custom product.
I also have non-custom products. I make normal fishing flies, and there's a custom fly option as well.
Okay, so you have different classes of product?
Yeah, I market myself under Jay's Flies, not Jay's Custom Flies. But there is an email that is on my website. It's like click to send me like a description of your fly, and then I can get a quote on the fly or whatever, and that's called Jay's Custom Flies. But like nothing else is called custom.
Okay, do people know they're buying hand-tied flies?
Yes.
Okay. So you have different classes of product.
Yep.
Okay, so the D, I would call your bulk. This is the one you mass produce. That's the least expensive and the fastest to make.
Normal general flies.
Okay, but, so, when you, how many different types of flies do you sell?
Like on my website, or like if anybody asks me to make anything, I can make it.
Okay, but what do you want to sell that you're gonna make money at?
Salmon and trout flies.
Okay, so salmon and trout.
That's like my main source of revenue. Or main source.
And then you would have special orders.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many types of salmon flies do you make?
I'm hoping to get anywhere from 25 to 50 different kinds on the website.
Really?
All the same price. They're just different types, different designs.
Okay, so, so you get 25 to 50.
All sold for generally the same price, but some of them are different. They're like just off by a little, like some are $12, some are $10. But the same cost to make them, and just the time takes a little bit longer to make some.
Okay, so,
Per unit.
so when I look at this, I want to say, okay, how, is there a specialty salmon fly that you can charge a premium for?
I'm currently designing not a salmon fly, but a pickerel fly that I like to fish for pickerel myself, and it's just a fly that I've developed that looks like a different lure. So I have multiple flies that I can sell for a premium, like multiple.
Okay, but I'm trying to get you to classify your flies. So if you do your salmon, your trout, and your pickerel,
Yeah.
and then you say there's a class of A, B,
Oh,
C.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So A is your premium product.
Yeah.
B is the next one down, and C, and I wouldn't go any farther than D. Okay?
I don't go to.
So you need to classify, so this, oh, and then you would have custom or specialty products,
Yeah.
right? That would be a whole class all unto itself.
Yeah. So.
Custom is, you charge through the nose,
Oh yeah.
right? So when it's, I'll use this as an example because I had a client that used to do custom drapes. So if someone's spending $15,000 to hang curtains in their living room, they're not price sensitive. Okay? So when someone's buying custom, it's a one-off, they're not price sensitive.
Yeah. And I came to realize that. Okay,
Pardon me?
I've done this. I've sold flies for 5 years.
Right. So,
Successfully.
but if you're gonna go online and you wanna sell lots of them, or you wanna sell in specialty stores, so you need to put your product into different classes. So you can identify and have a description on why this is this and whatever. You've got that?
Yep.
Okay. So the people that are gonna resell your product, so if you're selling it for $10 to $12 online, that's what they're gonna sell it for. You have to sell it to them for half that price. Because they have to make money. They're the bricks and mortar of your business.
Half that price, like.
Because they need to be able to pay $5 and sell it for 10. Remember I said you need to have double the cost?
Mm-hmm.
They're in the same boats. So how do you do that in here? So is the market price for these $10 to $12?
Price tends to be around $6 to $8, but I'm trying to look for that higher market.
Okay.
So for the higher market, it could range anywhere from $25 to $200. Like there's a big difference with flies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get some crazy wealthy people
I have
that
7
spend.
flies that my grandfather gave me, and they're each worth $100 a piece.
Right.
I didn't buy them; he didn't buy them, but he found them.
Right. So do you want to sell the $100 flies?
Yeah, those would be collector items.
Right. So
I-
how do you find customers to buy those collector items?
Avid fishermen that have a lot of money to spend.
Right. So you need to
Disposable
be
income.
where they're at.
Yeah.
Well, advertising, trade shows.
Yeah, I'm actually going to a sportsman show on May 19th.
Okay. Right.
I'm gonna have a lot of those.
Right. And the thing is that your product is something that can export.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it's not just selling in southern New Brunswick or New Brunswick, it's selling to New York and Boston and Los Angeles and, you know, wherever those avid fishermen, and maybe it's not avid fishermen, because I always think of this guy I know that doesn't really ski very well, but boy oh boy does he look like $1 million when he walks on the ski hill.
It's always that guy.
So there's those fisher people too, right?
Yeah.
That they're just gonna want the best of the best. They don't really do it well, but all their buddies do, so they're gonna be out there with
They
them.
just have a bunch of money to spend, but
Right.
they won't spend it. Yeah.
Right. They wanna look the part,
Yeah.
whether they are or not.
Yeah.
So, you're gonna have resellers of your product.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna look to, okay, who is gonna sell my flies? If you wanna sell them for 100, then they need to have a market price of $200. So who out there is gonna spend $200 on a fly, and how do you get your product in front of them?
I wouldn't be selling, that was just an example. I'd probably be selling a higher end fly for $50. That's still like,
I'd still like to see you go after the $300 flies.
yeah,
Because if you can do something that's really unique,
in time,
right,
yeah. But like, if I were to sell a collector's item, tomorrow some guy said I want this collector's item fly, I'd say, okay, $50 a pop, I'll make however many you want.
so you just need to figure out where these go into, how much money you make,
Yeah.
and then if you're gonna have resellers, your sell price to them, your wholesale price is gonna be half of your retail price.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not really,
Because you have another business to support, right? You're not gonna be packaging and, you know, they're the ones that are gonna have the storefront, right? So they're gonna have the employees, they're gonna have the building, they're gonna have the shelves, they're gonna have all of that. They have to make their piece too.
So that's why Chloe's margin is so important, because you start
Absolutely.
wholesaling and you have to cut them in for half.
Right, so now all of a sudden that $15 is $7.50 in your pocket, not $15.
Because they want $7.50 to put it in their
They
store.
have to.
So
if I
then,
were to, like, I'm not really trying to sell at big box, like Canadian Tire, Cromass, or anything like that, until I develop a name.
Right, and I mean, I wouldn't think that they sell very many hand-tied flies anyways, do they?
No, they don't.
Right,
They
they're
buy them
doing
from China
good-
and they
right.
put a machine over it and it does it.
Right,
That's why,
so that's not your customer base.
no,
You
my
know, so for
customers-
you to try to sell to them
Yeah,
is banging your head against the wall.
yeah.
Yeah, so you need to go find out where the guys and girls that are avid fish people, where they hang out, where they buy their stuff, and get in front of them.
Well, they have everybody has their place through their local Fisher spot, Fisher Hut, or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of them up in northern New Brunswick. Where you'll be driving by on the side of the road. It's Donnie's flies or Jay's flies or whatever.
Yeah, but I'd like to see you in, you know, I don't know what, some really exclusive fishing lodge in Timbuktu, I don't know.
There is one up north. Remember
There's
that
a
kind of
couple.
controversy about it's government
was
run?
there, yeah.
It's a super elite.
Yeah, the Irvings have a private one, but there's public ones too, right? And there's ones that are privately owned. And they, you know, I still remember, who was Magna PI? What's his?
Tom Selleck.
He used to come to Miramichi all the time to fly fish.
Yeah.
And it was the big thing. So who's supplying him with flies? Because I'm pretty sure he's not buying a Canadian Tire.
Like a lot of people know the name Doakes. Remember, have you ever heard of that? Doketown.
Well, it's a lot of dope, yeah.
Yeah, Doketown. Doakes, run by Jerry Doak.
Okay, so sad.
It's over 100 years old. They created a name. And
But all I'm saying
yeah.
is that the guy in Miramichi is not going to sell a gazillion flies. If you have a specialty chain or whatever that deals with, you know, so one of the clients I'm working with now is exporting. They're starting to export. And they're going out for brokers and distributors. Because brokers and distributors have contacts in all the different retail stores. So they're out there now slugging it away, getting retailers. But as soon as they get a broker or distributor, and that broker or distributor is a supplier to those retail stores, it goes kaboom. It's a mushroom. And the reason for that is that that person already has a relationship with everybody. That's another reason why your margin so is important, because they've got to get a cut too. Right? That's why you never give up anything, because right now when you're small it seems like a lot, but when you really try to grow, the reason that it's out there is because you need to give a cut to everybody else.
So now Chloe's giving a cut to the store owner, 50%, the retailer,
Right.
and if she wants...
And then if she has a broker or distributor, they're going to take, you know, a percentage as well, 5 or 10%, because they're going to do volume, right? So they're going to be selling to, I don't know, with shoppers, but, you know, they're going to have the contracts with, I'd say, the Costco's of the world and all those other places, right?
Yeah.
So, and suppliers or retailers depend on their brokers and distributors, because the broker and distributors vet all the products, and they're only going to bring something to them that they believe is going to be a good fit,
Yeah.
because that's how they make money.
That's not like where I'd be selling my product though. Like I wouldn't have.
Today, maybe tomorrow.
Look,
If you want to make $200,000 a year, how many flies do you have to sell?
It's a really good question.
Tell you the formula.
And that's not, okay, no, that's right, give me your margin. We'll just say 40%.
What?
We'll just say 40%.
It's
You say 76?
76%.
How much is your labor in there?
Yeah, that doesn't include labor, does it?
Say he makes 25 an
Right.
Yeah, but that's as a machine. You're not gonna do that 8 hours a day, right? You have to bank on 70%.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say, I'll throw a dart, and we'll just throw 40%. So if you wanna do, that's $500,000.
Just to make 200,000 a year.
Well, that's not even, that's your gross margin, what's left. You still have to pay for your office and your advertising and your accounting and your legal and yada,
Taxes.
yada, yada, right? And taxes. So that 500 very quickly gets to 750. And then you'll have 200 to take home. And you can live quite comfortably on $200,000 in southern New Brunswick. Toronto, not so much.
That's like when I lived in New York, the rent in my building was such that to stay above the poverty line, you had to make over $850,000 a year. The rent was $16,000 a month.
What were you doing there?
My wife's great aunt had a rent-controlled apartment. So I was a high school teacher living in the most expensive neighborhood in Manhattan. $16,000 a month was the rent. A parking space under the building was $3,000 a month.
Is that how much you paid?
No, it was rent controlled, so I paid $1,050 a month. We were the riffraff of the building. Everybody just looked at us.
And they were just waiting for you guys to go.
They would check like every 3 or 4 months. How's your great aunt? She was 90. They were counting. I did the math one time. Her staying alive past 70 cost them like $1.2 million in lost revenue.
I have friends that were in Toronto, and they went into rent control, and they never moved. So they bought a cottage up in cottage country, paid for it. They still stayed in rent control. They stayed there when they had their first daughter. They bought investment properties because they were paying. Rents in Toronto were at this time probably, this is 15 or 20 years ago. They were probably still about $1,200 or $1,500 a month, which was an enormous amount of money. And they were paying like $400 or $500. So just what they saved on their rent, they just invested it, right? They've done very, very well for themselves. Go ahead, sorry,
So it's okay. So a company for like me and Lou doing clothing, to get into storefronts, how should we go about that?
It's going to be all on, the thing is that your customer is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're marketing to a demographic that doesn't have any money.
Our demographic's going to be anyone from the range of 14 to about 22, 23.
In age.
Yeah.
But income level, how much money do they have to spend?
Well, I work a part-time job and I've got quite a lot to spend.
But I thought you were going after poverty.
We are, but that's where our donations are going.
Okay.
So
you're not going to sell?
No.
Okay, so I misunderstood.
Yeah, so our demographic is high school students or people who are just getting out of high school with part-time jobs.
So you're doing 18 to 40.
And if they're successful, that's the was and is the target demographic for East Coast Lifestyle and others.
Yeah.
But then as soon as teenagers and university students start wearing it, then within a few years their parents start buying it because they want to be cool.
My daughter wants all my shoes.
Oh yeah, that's right. How old is she though?
Not quite 12.
Oh, she has good taste then.
Mommy, my feet are big enough. Can I have those? No. Anyways, so yeah, it's if you can, you need to build your brand awareness.
Yeah.
And it's like anything. It's all about. What is that little swoosh that Nike has? Does anybody care? No. But every time you see it, it's Nike.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does it mean anything? No. But it's all around that brand awareness. So I'm not a marketing expert. I am an accountant. I can help on some things, but that's not my expertise. You should get Haley Bowden. Haley's doing some work with me to do some stuff on marketing. I can send you an email. I'll send you her contact.
And then after that, we're doing donations per sale. So we're doing 15% of each sale, which entails.
I wouldn't do that.
No.
No. And the only reason I'm saying that is that one, you're telling your retailers. Are you selling it, or what you sell to a retailer, you're going to get back, and you're going to give to.
So right now we're
So why wouldn't you give them
ourselves.
clothes? Why would you give them instead of money? Are you giving them money or are you giving product?
Well, so we're partnering with Safe Harbor,
Okay.
and what they said is they don't specifically want money. They need like bus tokens and money for extracurricular things.
So more or less, it'll just be like the exposure of us doing good deeds to help
So it's
the
not
poverty
really.
and to get that brand out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100 shirts sold, X amount of dollars was bought in so many coins.
Yeah, so it's not really how much money we're donating. It's 15% of what we make is going to go into a fund of which we can get them bus tokens
Okay, so that's gonna be
Whatever they
a profit.
require at the moment.
That's a profit,
Okay.
not of margin. Right?
Mhm.
So gross margin is up here. So that's all the costs that go up and down with every sale that you have. Then you have all these things in here that don't change that you pay every month. Right, so it's staffing, it's professional fees, it's
Yeah.
phone, internet, website, all that other stuff.
Mhm.
Payroll, right? Because you're gonna have people in there, and then you have profit. So if you wanna give 15% of your profit after tax,
Could they do a before tax donation and then get a rebate or a receipt?
they don't
or-
get a rebate.
Not a
and
rebate,
the
but
thing
a
is
receipt?
that, yeah, it comes off of, it's an expense, but tax at the corporate small business tax rate 16%.
Huh.
So it's not
Yeah.
enough, right? So yeah, you get to deduct it as an expense. I'm not gonna say don't donate,
Mhm.
but when you're looking percentage of profits, so this is 15% of profits, that's a lot, right? Because from your top line to down here, it's probably 10%.
Yeah, because
Or less.
we're selling sweaters for $50. The profit off that without screen printing is $35.17, which gives us at 15%. That's $5 and
But is that including all your labor?
no, not yet.
Okay, is that including storage?
No, that's
No.
just straight sale.
Right, so you're selling today at 50.
Mhm.
If you want a retailer to sell it, you gotta sell it at 25.
Yeah.
And you're saying it costs you how much to get it?
To get it,
12 bucks, 13 bucks?
14.74-ish.
Is that landed? That's your shipping and duty and,
Yeah.
okay.
But that doesn't include screen printing or labor.
No.
Right, so how
that's
much is the
just
screen printing? Screen printing's pretty cheap.
Approximately.
We're,
Approximately $4, I'd say.
you sure?
I'm getting a quote tonight.
Yeah, so-
really-
So
I
you
think
guys
four
don't
is
do it.
four is probably reasonable.
Okay, I have no idea.
I was gonna say
I sent them
3 or 4.
over.
That's what I've heard before. You might come in under that,
Yeah.
but I think 4 is what's industry standard.
Okay.
Okay. And then you've gotta do labor.
Yeah.
So,
After meals.
so this is costing you 14, 18, 20 bucks.
Yeah.
You're making $5 a shirt.
That's if they sell it through a retailer.
Yeah,
So it's a 25% gross margin.
That'd be completely different if we did it through a retailer.
Yeah.
That's-
That
we
is
weren't-
through a retailer, I think.
That is a retailer.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're
Okay.
not going through a retailer.
Yeah, no.
Right, but
by
the thing
any means,
is
we're not
that
doing
you have to look at, you're not gonna have the same reach, right?
True.
So American Eagle is American Eagle because everybody goes to American Eagle to buy it.
Mhm.
And if you can sell, 10,000 shirts at $5 a piece, or you can sell 200 at $50, you know what I mean, on the margin
Yeah.
side? You have to look at that. So, but if you're going a retail route, they need to sell it for 50 because they're the bricks and mortar.
Okay, so if we were to sell it at 50, they'd have to sell it at 100.
Correct. And will the market bear a $100 price tag?
No. 75 maybe, not really
Yeah.
100.
You gotta think about that,
Mhm.
all right? So it's a great conversation to have because this is not enough for you,
Yeah,
which is really good to know today.
because there's 2 of us, so that 5's
Yeah.
split in half right there.
And did you take the 15% out for safe harbor
Oh,
yet?
that's not even your other expenses. That's only up here. You got all this stuff to pay for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because really, they're a business that has stated they want to keep going, right? They want to see positive impact. So, yes, you can sell and keep going at $50 where you're the storefront, so to speak. But if you blew up,
Yeah.
Or if you want to blow up.
If you want to blow up, this
Who's
is
the guy in Fredericton or Moncton that makes these custom, crazy, awesome shirts?
Oh, yeah.
And he's selling them like for $200 or $300 a piece.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets these fabrics and whatever, and, yeah, and I don't know where they're being, yeah.
That'd be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's 3:15. Liam, I don't know if you need to
Oh, I
go.
don't have to go.
Okay, great.
Okay, Nice to meet you, James.
Thank you.
Does this help with you guys?
A bit, yes.
You wanna take a picture of that before I erase it?
Yeah.
How do they, so,
Market speech, I don't think it would affect us, but if we were to blow up, then we.
Or if you
would-
want to.
Yeah, if we want to, yes, we would have the money to do so, but we would have to factor in all that.
So we never talked about accounting and books and records and stuff like that, so we're gonna park this for now, because we don't have only a little bit of time. It'll take us 10 minutes to talk about it, because that's all you need. It's not that complicated. One, if you're gonna run a business, have a bank account strictly for the money that comes in and goes out of the business. Don't try to muddy the water. If you do that, then your life is really pretty easy. So that thing alone, just having a bank account, so everything you sell goes in there and everything you pay for the business comes out of that. So if you need to put your own money into the business, don't take it out of your pocket and go pay for it. Take it, put it in the bank, and then pay for it from there. So that it's tracked, everything's tracked. You know, there's HST. So I'm assuming everybody in here is going to be a proprietorship. And what that means is that you are your business. So you don't need to register with CRA for a business number until you hit $30,000 in sales. From that day forward, you have to be registered with CRA, and you have to collect and remit HST on your product. Excuse me, unless it's medical or grocery items. Okay?
Would Chloe's count as medical?
No,
No.
no, it's cosmetics.
Did you say 3,000 or
30. 30. So,
Got a long way to go for that.
yeah. That's gross, that's not net, right? So, big thing, get the bank account, get the HST. Even you guys, you need to report your revenue and your expenses on your tax returns.
Oh yeah, how do we do that if we're not registered?
You should,
It's like,
it's an honor system, our tax system is an honor system, so any money that you get paid, you're supposed to report. So, you know, as a proprietor, you just keep track of what comes in, that's your revenue, because if you have a bank, it's all the deposits. You know, your deposits are 30,000, and you look at it and you say, oh yeah, but I put 5 of my own money in, so you put, you know, owner. And you're gonna see that was $25,000 in revenue. That's why if you put everything into one bank account, it makes it so much easier, right? And then you can go through the bank statements. So today, you absolutely have to keep your slips for everything you've paid for. But if you do it all on debit or credit, your statements show that it's Staples, or that it's Costco, or that it was Canadian Tire, right? So those types of things, you still have to keep the paper receipts, but tracking it on a bank statement or credit card statement is way easier. The other thing is if you pay anything cash, my suggestion is get the really high-tech Ziploc bag, shove all the cash receipts in it, and put cash receipts, because they're going to be happening outside of your bank statement, right? And, you know, again, my office, you know, we have accounting software that tracks everything. We literally just throw invoices into a file folder by month. Nothing sorted, as long as they're paid, I don't care. If I need to go find something, I go look on the computer, and I go look for whatever, if I bought furniture or something. I know that I bought it either at Staples or some vendor, but I can click on my accounting to go backtrack it. And when you guys get bigger, you can do the same thing. You don't have to spend hours sorting stuff. Technology.
That's a page, makes me do it.
Maybe she needs to talk to me. Doesn't have to. There's other ways of doing it. And years ago, a gazillion years ago, when I was first started working, we had to do that because we didn't have the software that we could drill back and find things. So if I'm going to find an invoice for a piece of furniture, I go for office furniture and equipment, I click on it, and then it's gonna bring up all the transactions and I can see the dollar value. I'm gonna have a rough idea what I spent on a new desk, right? You don't have to, once you hit the 30,000, we'll park that one, you guys don't have to worry about that for a couple of years. So if you do, get Reese to give me a call and I'll help you. If you have employees, you have to withhold payroll tax. Again, most of you're not going to do that, but for you guys, you're going to have your business, so you've got this revenue, right? This is your revenue. Then you're going to have all your expenses. So you're going to have all the stuff for your play. And then at the end, this is called your profit. That's what you pay tax on. So for you guys, your first $12,000 or $15,000 roughly is tax-free. And I say that, you still have to pay Canada pension. So you might not pay tax, but you're going to pay Canada pension. I would say that's about the extent of your accounting. If you want to keep a sheet to know, what you have coming in and going out, my suggestion is take that bank statement and make it super simple so you have 5 or 6 or 10 categories of expenses. You have your revenue and you put those in and then you have a total over here. And you can have all your months, January to December. The big thing is are you making money or not? Because this is not rocket science. It's very mechanical. And that's why when Reese said, can you talk about accounting? It's like, okay, it'll be 10 minutes or less. Does this make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Right, so it's an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know if you guys want to use Excel.
Yeah.
Yeah. January, December, total,